Thank you, computer. All right, so we were actually, I haven't got it uploaded, so y'all probably are going to be needing to go watch over this. I've got through about half 38 part of it. This is actually a cool chapter on special senses. I think y'all find this pretty entertaining, pretty cool one. And I think before we get through, one of my favorite things in here is how we hear. I think one of the coolest things is how we hear. So we can explain that one. That one makes sense to me. My little mind can understand that one. How vision works, nobody knows. Nobody can explain what we're seeing. I mean, we just can't do it. We know the parts. But it's like this little pixel, magic pixel dust in here that we haven't figured out yet, right? And we can't recreate it, right? So in science, we should be able to take your memory from your third grade birthday party, and recreate that on a computer. We can't do that yet, okay? But you have it stored in your mind, and that is pretty freaking crazy, okay? So anyway, we kind of went through smell and basic. Here's the different types of chemoreceptors I'm reviewing because it's already on the video before. Chemical receptors detect change in chemicals, photoreceptors and vision detect wavelengths of light. Mechanoreceptors detect movement, and they're going to be involved in hearing because they're going to actually be used for hearing. And all of our joints and muscles have receptors that detect their tension, and all that is sent to the cerebellum, right? And some animals have electromagnetic receptors that can pick up the electromagnetic waves, and that's how the birds know to fly north and south. So they have an onboard GPS system in their ear that for flying a certain direction. We do not have that. So we don't have that particular one. And then, of course, thermoreceptors for temperature. Okay. And then we'll walk on through here. Taste, just because these are taste buds, not much here. I'm just going to smell, kind of cool here. You have to have an atmosphere to have smell, so you don't smell in space unless you have artificial atmosphere. Okay. So the air has to float up. The fumes have to float up into the nose and have to mix with saliva. So it's not here. So you have to have the chemical has to be in solution for smell and taste to work, which is I'll give y'all some trivia pursuit here, but that kind of wild. So completely dry your tongue, you can't taste anything. And we were looking at the eye, and here are the parts of the eye. This is kind of what we got into. And the cool thing here is the outer part is that we like to put contact lenses on is the cornea. Then the white of the eye is called the sclera. The hole is the pupil, and this iris, like an iris in a camera, can open and close the amount of control the amount of light being allowed in. Okay, and it's controlled by the little muscle called the iris. And then the lens is held in place behind this by suspension ligaments attached to a muscle called ciliary body. And how it contracts and relaxes, this is how we focus. So we focus our eye. A combination is when you look at this big paper and it goes into focus here. Then when I look out to y'all the back of the room, then it has to adjust to move like adjust that focus has to be moved. The lens has to move in and out or actually get thicker and thinner to adjust. And then the retina is the back part layer that you can see right here. That is where there are 10 layers of the retina. I'm going to show you a picture in just a second a bit. And the rods and cones that do vision are located here. Okay. Another couple of cool structures. There is a fovea centralis here. This is your center of focus. So whatever you're looking at, that is where they're hitting. Like if you're looking at me and I'm standing here, oops, I hate it when it does that. Okay. Then the light is hitting me and you're focusing it right there on that fovea centralis. And the blind spot is right here where there is no retina. There are no rods and cones where the blood vessel leaves to the brain, leaves the eye. So you have two blind spots right out here. Now, God could have left you two cylinders that got bigger the farther away it went. It would get farther away, and we'd all be in therapy. Or he could let the brain fill in what it thinks would be there. And that's what happens. And that's why people die every day pulling out from a car. So when you pull in that traffic, you see the blind spot in the left eye over here is not being compensated with the right eye, and your brain fills in a clean road with nobody there, a little rain on the road, and everything, and then all of a sudden you hit a semi-truck like this. So you're always supposed to look twice before you move, switch lanes or merge into traffic to let that car or vehicle get out of your blind spot. Okay, and we got a little lab experiment where we can actually test that. So I don't have time to do that in here. Okay, moving on. Talk about if you have a squatty eye or long eye and your focus is here, then you would want to get a lens, right? And we'll see that how lens were here, rods and cones. Cones do color and fine detail, but only work in bright light. When you cut the lights off, cones go off and rods kick in, and rods do low light and motion, but not fine detail. So this is why it's black and dark at night when you go into the house. Rods are still working. When you turn the lights on, it takes cones a couple minutes to kick on. Okay, if you're going to have night vision, it's black and white, because that's some rods only work in the dark. Okay, and so night vision is rod vision, okay? And bright colors and detail is cones. So that fovea centralis is the center of cones. You have lots of cones, and that's what looks like a little hole in the indention in the eye. I've been cutting cow eyes for 20, 30 years now. And you can see it sometimes. You can see the little indention, the fovea centralis, right next to the blind spot. It's kind of cool, okay? And you can see that little dip. But it's a dip, but it's super rich in these cones, which are shorter. It's all cones. And that's their fine detail. Okay, in vision. 150 million rods in each eye, 6 million cones, 1 million ganglion, nerve neurons in the eye. There are 10 layers of the retina. Look at this. You can name them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, pretty cool. Okay, and notice the rods and cones are pointed away. I would have thought the camera would have been pointing toward the opening, wouldn't y'all? Like to get a picture, you got to put the camera towards what you're looking at. Instead, the vision occurs as it sweeps through here. It catches it on the side view. And we have an absorption layer here that's black. So they absorb light. Bird, insects, and dogs and cows have a, not dogs, but cows have a shiny mirror, and that's why they see better at night. And that's also why you can go spotlight deer or spotlight cows, or you can spotlight insects. They do the same thing. So when it's the summer, walk over at night, walk around with your flashlight, point down, you'll see two little eyes. Okay, so it'll be a wolf spider. We used to do a spider hunt and do that. Pretty cool. All right, so a couple of diseases, we looked at some of these already. I'll just let you see them in the video. Glaucoma, this pressure problem with the aqueous humor, put too much pressure on the retina. Cataracts are the lens getting cloudy, and we have to replace it with a glass lens. That's pretty common for older people. 50% of people between 64 and 74 need to have a cataract surgery to replace the lens. And then here we go. Here's our new side. And astigmatism is what most of us have, an uneven curvature of the cornea of the lens, okay? And so the glasses compensate for that uneven curvature. And they can get worse as you get older. So if you have a squatty eye and you're focusing here, you need a concave lens to pull the focus back out into the fovea centralis, right? That's if you have a long eye. If you have a squatty eye, you're focusing out here, and we need a convex lens to pull the focus back onto the fovea centralis. And then if you have astigmatism, then that glass compensates for the error in your uneven, that bubble there, and so you get a normal vision. Isn't that cool? So that's how it works. One of the great inventions of all time, right? Everybody, amen? Glasses. I mean, I'd be completely blind without them today, and I had really good vision. I got about 50. I was in class one day, maybe 45, and I said, everybody look at on page, and I couldn't read it. Somebody goes, 38, yes, 38. Okay, but I had to go get reading glasses. That's a bad experience. All right, moving on. They're working on an artificial eye. We can't transmit the eye yet, but we do have artificial ear we're talking about. Fish have a lateral line to detect currents and pressure, and that's how they can sense fish through about. They have a little sonar that they can detect that. Our human ear is going to serve two big purposes. The one is obvious that y'all know about is hearing. One you may not know about is what's called equilibrium. There are three structures. Of course, obviously the organ of forte and the cochlear duct does hearing, but two other structures do two types of equilibrium that you wouldn't know about. One is called static equilibrium, and that's just sitting here right now. When you woke up this morning, you woke up and you knew you were laying on your back. You know what I'm saying? You knew up was up this way. So basic body orientation. And the other one is the sensation of riding a roller coaster or driving in the back seat with somebody driving. Acceleration, that's called dynamic equilibrium, the equilibrium of motion. And we have a friend of mine who took an antibiotic and it destroyed all of his equilibrium. In the part that does that static equilibrium. And so he literally has to hold on to something all the time to maintain. If he lets go, he'll fall over. He can't handle his balance. He has no balance. Okay, but he has had an implant for that now. He's like the fifth person on earth to get an implant put in by John Hopkins. Yeah, he's a AFP instructor, and he's done a lot of publications and stuff. And so they picked him. They called him and said, "Hey, we want to try this on you." Because he was out of work for like 6 years because he couldn't do anything. So he went through a really hard time, obviously, with that. Okay, let's look at the ear. What they're hearing first. I think it's really cool. So the pinna is the external folds, collects the sound waves. And the sound waves then are funneled down the tongue. The purpose of the ear is to catch sound waves, just like those megaphones, used to, you put them up to your head, you can hear people talking across the parking lot, right? Because it collects the sound waves. And then we cause the tympanic membrane, the eardrum, to vibrate. So my voice right now is causing your tympanic membrane to vibrate. And then the three smallest bones in the human body, the malleus, incus, and stapes, all line up next to each other, and they start vibrating. And that vibration hits right here. And this is the cochlear duct. It looks like a cochlear seashell, right? And in this structure is the organ of corte where we do hearing. Okay. Now I'm going to just kind of go a little bit off script here possibly and show you something here. And we'll see how the PowerPoints go. But one of the things I have a hard time with this, it's really hard on a slide, microscope slide. If you cut this, you get a bunch of weird looking stuff. But an easier way to think about this, if you can unroll like a fruit roll up, which it will not, it actually looks like this. And it has 3 chambers in it. And this middle chamber, there are hair cells in the organ of corte and a little membrane right above it. And how hearing works, remember this is coiled up, I've uncoiled it. But these waves occur in here, this fluid filled thing, and these waves cause the membrane to touch. And wherever it touches, that goes to your brain as a note. And what we have is a keyboard here, with this being high frequency, 20,000 megahertz, and the very middle of the coil is low bass, like 20 megahertz, like low, first, low. Okay. Now I can't do a scale. Do I have an entertainer in the room? Anybody in a band? Singer? Give me a scale. Give me a scale. And no judge here. You heard my scale. It's bad. She laughing. It's okay. You can laugh at me anytime you want to. I love y'all. Okay. Because I cannot hit a scale. That's it. Oh, that's it. Okay. But as I go up, I'm hitting you right here in the middle of the coil. Okay. And then as y'all go to higher note, it works its way out to here. And that's high frequency here. Like their frequencies for when some people can break glass. Opera stars can kind of get the harmonic frequency of glass and make it shatter. I always love the Harry Potter with the painting would do it, and then when nobody looked at it, it would break the glass. That's me. I can't do that now. Huh? Yes, that is true. That's true. You can do that. And what's even weirder, there's a situation, I've seen this picture of this, where there was a bridge was built, and I'm sure the engineer got fired. But the wind was blowing, and it caused the harmonic frequency of the wave of the bridge, and it just shattered the bridge. It was like 71. It was crazy wind. It was like 43 degrees. It didn't have 100 mile stable, but 43 made it wobble, and it just shattered it. Everybody got off the cars, and it's like, nobody died. It just shattered it. Same thing with glass buildings and stuff. So it is possible to break glass with with certain waves, such sounds. I told him, I'm glad you said it, because we had a guy, one year I was teaching, and we had a parking lot right in front of the building where I taught. Over the old building we tore down. And I had a kid in class that he probably had a $2,000 car with a $5,000 audio system in it. No backseat speakers. And so we would eat lunch and have loud, but we were all starting to eat lunch, bring sandwich, we'd eat lunch and have loud for one. And he ran and got some that day. And he pulled back up and just played this boom music, boom, boom, boom. And the window started vibrating before the girl, 3 or 4 people ran off the back road. We thought it was going to break. And I ran out there and said, hey man, would you cut that junk off? Which is probably not very nice. And he goes, man, he come in, he making fun of my music. I said, I don't care what you play. I listen to everything, man. But you can blow these windows. He said, no, you making fun of me. I said, go back out there, turn it on, and put it on that volume and run back in here. You could have seen his look in his eyes when he walked in that room like, it's been a blow window. I said, what we think you do? And so I wouldn't be an ugly like the music. It's just dangerous, okay? But there are, yes, y'all all been to a concert, right? You can feel it, right? That's what it does to you. It can destroy your ears. We're going to talk about that in just a second too. But isn't that cool? We should have a picture of that. Let me see. Sometimes, yeah, here we go. So here is the coil, a slice out of it, and you get that one pet. There's the 3 chambers, and there's that organ of corte right in the middle. But it's better explained when you roll it out, right? Because it is one-dimensional. But when you cut this, you get like 1, 2, 3, like 6 of these, right? Because you cut through the whole coil. It's rolled up. But when you unroll it, it would be much more linear, and it looked like a keyboard. So your ear worked like a keyboard. As you run the tectile membrane down there, it goes just like on a keyboard or a piano from high to low. And everybody has a signature voice, like how you recognize somebody's voice in the phone call, just like mama, steady, ex-boyfriend, whatever, like hang up. Okay, whatever. Okay, now let me show you something really crazy. Just a minute. At the end, I'm going to pull up and show you pictures of people who've had damaged ears. So what they do, this is what these hair cells look like right here. And I'm going to show you a picture where they took a guinea pig. That's like a guinea pig hair cell. And then they took one little brand new baby guinea pig, never heard anybody call it, and they killed it and made that. And then they put it next to a speaker and listened to Guns N' Roses for 2 hours. Then they killed it and made a slide, and it looked like this. That's it. It's like we needed it. All of them are just shot up. And this cannot regrow. Now I say that because I listened to some really loud music as a kid, and I drove tractors, and I can't hear anything over 14,000 megahertz. Like you can take, and I'm going to pull up an adult-proof ringtone here in a minute and make a couple of you girls cry, or guys cry. I mean, I'd rather have people cheer up because this thing's got a nice stereo and I can make it so loud. I've never heard it. I can't hear it. And you can actually download this on your phone. And if your parents are bad as me, you can have it go off, like buddy calling you, just go, I gotta go to the bathroom. What's up? And they'll never know you got a call. Okay, because I can't hear it. But we're all different. And how many of you have y'all did lawnmower drive? Okay, you're screwed. Okay, you can't hear it. Okay. So if you did with a guy that mowed the yard, you ever seen the little kid, you've seen the picture where the grandparents hold the little kid on lawnmower and the kid screaming bloody murder? Because you're killing their ear, boo. I mean, even though we're just running the lawnmower on a kid, it just scare them to death because it's so loud. And 20 minutes exposure destroys those hair cells. I'm in litigation against my parents, okay? Okay, because my ears have been destroyed. And this can't regrow, so it's impossible to regrow this. I'll show you some pictures in a minute. Okay, now, they call these two the sense of balance. Okay, so they're talking about gravitational equilibrium, and that's the static equilibrium. Now, look, you know how I like to make things up. I like to tell a story in one spot. Sometimes I exaggerate the story. Well, I ain't got it. What if I told you that you're here, there's little rocks, and they're sitting on some jello, sitting on some hair cell receptors, and how when you tilt your head to the front, the rock rolls to the front, and your brain detects that and tells your brain that your head is tilted forward. And I'm not lying. And when you do this, the rocks roll to the left, and they tell your brain you're tilted to the left. So you don't walk around like this all the time, that's all wrong with you. Okay? But some people have that messed up and they walk around because their ears messed up. And my friend has none of that. So he said the weirdest sensation was to get in the swimming pool and close his eyes and float. He had no idea what was up or down. He said it's like I'm just like an embryo floating in the fluid. I don't know. And I have to wait, I have to look to see which way's up. But we naturally know that because of this structure. Here it is, look. And these guys have it in their ear. You see how the little ball in their head just bounces around, and that tells them which way is up and down. So that's how the what's that? I don't know, crab, some kind of word, lobster, whatever. Okay, here's what ours look like. Our structure is right here called uricles and saccules right here. And there's the hair cells, there's the oscillants, that's the little rocks, and how they roll around cause the brain to tell you that your head's tilted forward. So what I just said. Now, guess what happens when you go down space? They float, and the brain don't know what to make of that. So guess what happens by half the people when they go down space? What does your body do when it gets confused a lot of times? Let's just throw up on the safe side. So you throw up. Okay. And then one of my favorite movies is Apollo 13, with Tom Hanks. That was filmed. This is before they had the fake computer graphic stuff. We have a plane, and Russia had a plane that they filmed all the scenes inside the spaceship. They made the set inside this big plane, and it goes up to the edge of space, and it dives for 5 minutes, and you get 4 minutes of weightlessness. And you look at that sometime, and you can see people looking green because they've been throwing up all day. There's a vomit float behind them because they would do 4 minutes of filming, take an IV, go back up, and do that again all day. That's how they filmed that. And they do not look happy, do they? They were supposed to be getting sick anyway in space anyway, right? So it worked out. They didn't look real well. But check it out sometime. But that's how they shot that. And then that's static equilibrium. And then dynamic equilibrium are these semicircular canals. And look, each ear has 3 of these. Don't y'all see this? It's so cool. Look, each ear has a tube like this. So when you go left to right, the fluid slushes. And that causes this causes the macular densus cells here to move based on how you turn your head. Okay, then one goes up and down like this, and that would be like going out to Holly Springs and go out about that tower, and the bottom falls out, right? Woo, 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 you know what I'm talking about? That gives you that sensation. And another one cuts the angle, and that's the corkscrew when you ride a roller coaster. That is the sensation, totally different than anything else. Okay, and once again, go in space, they get real upset. Now, who in here has ever experienced motion sickness? Oh, good. Okay, really bad for me too. So I had it really bad as a kid, and I would like be reading my Richie Rich magazine, comic books, driving to baseball or something, or actually Holly Springs. You know how bad that road is, right? Everybody drove that road to Holly Springs, right? It's just like his favorite thing, the loop, the top down. And they put one in, I'm sure. Of course, true. Anyway, I'd be reading the magazine, and my eyes are saying, "What?" My brain. We're not moving, but my ears are going, "What?" Oh, hey, are you riding with your mama or something? Man, she's a bad driver. And so the eyes say we're not moving, the ears say we are. And so what do we do to be on the safe side? Let's just see them fill up. I went deep sea fishing one time, probably my 10th time. I was about 17, 18. I was a senior, veteran deep sea fisherman. Dad and I go every year on vacation. And we get down there in Panama City, and they're not letting the big ships go, little ships go out. We normally been like a 5-man boat, go out there private fishing. But there was a hurricane out there, and they were only letting the big ones like where 50 people could fish in one time. Like that. So we got on one of them on a 12-hour fishing trip, and it was roller coaster for 4 hours. And about 4 hours, I started getting real sick and was getting sick, turning green. And they picked your number, like you're number 13. Let's just say you're 13, and I'm just picking on you because you're up close there. And there's this beautiful young girl, and I was looking up, and I'm like, hey man, this will be my girl, my dream on this trip, you know. And so I'm 13, she's 14, and she's never been fishing, and she's like, can you help me? Do you know what you're doing? I was like, baby, I'll bet your hook. I got you covered here. I'm better than all this. I will take care of you. They brought the squid around, and they like the bucket of squid and threw it out from me, and I projectile bombed it on her and the squid. And never saw that girl. I mean, I projectile bombed it. I begged for an airplane to come get me. I take all my savings, just get me off of this thing. Because when you get car sick, what do? Grab a tree, get out, and look up. Everything's moving on the boat, people. I mean, we went to the bathroom and you bump it, and then it would blow it to the top, you know, the downway. So we was bad. Everybody had a bucket. I had 3 tacos for that trip, and I didn't have a taco for 15 years. I could drive by KFC. I mean, what is it? Taco Bell and start. I'd take it. I mean, it was 10 years later at Gunners, Alabama. Next time I could walk in Taco Bell, I bravely went in and had a taco. It was bad. So be aware. Take the little drugs you can get. Take Dramamine if you go on a cruise. Do not experience that. Oh, there it is. I had it here. So there's your. And I hate to use this because I know I shouldn't use this, but these are virginal ears, never been exposed to the outside. And these are some skank ears. They went to Guns N' Roses in 2000 at the Mid-South Coliseum. Not Mid-South Coliseum, the Pyramid. Greatest concert ever. Which brings me to this story. So I am first year teaching here 30 years ago. My brother is 16, and this is before internet. You had to go to Piggly Wiggly's and get in line because they had a computer to buy concert tickets, and you know, and record stores. So he got a ride to Tupelo, camped out at Piggly Wiggly, and got 8 tickets to see Guns N' Roses in 1990. And the concert was like January 7, 1991. He didn't know enough to go to Memphis, and so he's like, "Will you go and take me?" And I went, man, I really fell in love with him that summer because I worked with his friend on that trip. You know, I took the fish trip. I was over doing the aquatic work, and we played this game with our CDs. If I can't stand it, we threw it in the back seat. Well, I had like 60s music and Creedence Clearwater. He threw all that in the back seat, and he had like heavy metal crowd. I couldn't stand. And finally, the only thing he had I could listen to was Guns N' Roses. So I took a job here, and I bought him a ticket. My best friend, I called him and his wife, we'll take them. And my wife would not let me go without her because she said, y'all going to get in trouble. This is during our wild training days. And so we go to the concert, my brother's first concert. I had never heard of this band called Soundgarden, who ended up being a really famous band. Okay, they played for an hour, 8 o'clock they leave. You know, Guns N' Roses should be out by 8:30 right now. Everybody's drinking. They put the camera on people getting crazy, people would take clothes off. My brother's like, is this not the whole concert? I'm like, no. Never seen this before. It's quite like this. And they're passing bottles, I mean, drug paraphernalia down the road. It's crazy. Okay. At 10:15, we've been waiting 2.5 hours. They're like, Axel's in the house, the concert will start from the turn. I'm like, really? Let's get this thing going. They hit the stage, y'all, and I hope y'all are not in hell tonight. But I know what the band's gonna sound like there if you are. It was the loudest thing I've ever experienced in my life. We were on stage, like first ride, we were on the floor, but not on the pit. We were like first seat up. And I turned around my friend like, and he's right here, you know. I got a switchblade, he's a cop now, he's got a gun. Because they didn't check back then. We thought we was gonna fight our way out. I mean, I had the switchblade in my hand, he had his rubbing his ankle bracelet, he had a pistol. I thought he was gonna die. They come out and hit Welcome to the Jungle. And I call my wife right now at Oak Shire Elementary School. She'll tell you the greatest concert you ever saw. They then proceeded to play the 3 o'clock in the morning. They played everything they've ever recorded. They played Paradise City 3 times. And they closed that thing about 4 o'clock in the morning playing Paradise City. And I heard that beat for 2 days. So I had to be here the next day for the first day of orientation back. And I don't look good. I'm wearing shades. I go back row. My boss comes up to the podium and she goes, Charlie freaking Brown. I can't make out a word she's saying. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So they kind of, my 2 coworkers kind of take me to my office, you know, and I'm hearing that beat, take me to Paradise City. So I call my buddy and I'm like, he goes, for the girls, he says the words, he said, you hearing it too? I go, yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing that beat for 2 days, okay? completely fried our ears. And Lord knows what we breathe unintentionally. It was bad, but it's the greatest concert I've ever heard. I'm big fans of them. I didn't go see them on the reunion tour because I knew it would never be as good as they were that night. And then they were on, man. It was amazing. But anyway, so when I took my girls to concerts, I wore hunting clothes, like to shoot guns with. I made them wear. I took them to see the Dixie Chicks and Willie Nelson and Paul McCartney. I'm a big Beatles fan, but I always made them wear clothes in until they get of an age to do what they want to do with their hair, right? But anyway, very impressive. Wish we could regrow that. When I lay down at night, I hear ringing. It sounds like a record at the end of the night. That sounds to me. Okay. So I've really damaged my ears. Probably the tractors. That's it too. Vertigo is a disorder where people get mixed information in the equilibrium. I had a friend of mine. I was in his wedding. Good friend of mine. He worked out every day. Micronutritional eater. He was the most physically. He really like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but better looking. Once a month, he would just fall out in the lab and could not move. And 3 or 4 months, I had to take him home and put him in the bed because he'd have vertigo. And he had some steroid patches he could stick on the back of his head to help. But he had some tremendous vertigo. So I pray none of y'all ever experience that. But that's an error with this part of your brain. And then we have other receptors in the skin, blah, 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 knees. Okay, all that to do reflexes and all with. Okay, pain receptors, of course, everywhere. And that's why we take the opiate addiction, right? Stops them being fired. Okay, pretty cool chapter, fun in there. Hope y'all enjoyed that. I wanted my Guns N' Roses on tape. I never had tape out before. That's one of my stories I always telling me because that is really amazing. But I heard that beat. And so what happens when you hear your ears ringing is that membrane is stuck on the hair cells and don't let go. Or you break them and then you just get static, like a radio static. Pretty wild. We got a few minutes. We go 30 now. We can at least introduce it. I'll do that. Did we answer those to those? No. Almost got it done. Okay, so this is a very long chapter looking at skeletal muscles, and we can't even do it justice here. So we're just going to kind of blow them through it. There are 3 types of skeleton. The worms have a hydrostatic skeleton where they keep water in their, like a balloon is their skeleton. Okay, then of course the insects have what? The exoskeleton, right? And that, you ever wonder why we don't do a vertebrate collection in college? Or, did that be fun? Give me 20 vertebrates, get the neighbor's dog, neighbor's cat, get a fish, put it on a flag, let it all run off, and just have a skeleton, right? We don't do that because it'd be nasty, but the insects, right, their skeletons on the outside, so you can pin a butterfly and look just like that in 40 years. We got some butterflies up in Major's lab that have been collected 30 years ago. Okay, so exoskeleton in the mollusks and arthropods, which are the insects, and then we have this internal skeleton, endoskeleton, and ours is made out of bones. The sharks, stingrays have a cartilage internal skeleton, and then the bony fish also. So advantages, I mean, obviously the endoskeleton, you grow with the animal, support the body weight. But if you have an exoskeleton, as you grow, you have to shed it, right? And here is a cicada shedding its skin or whatever, you know, then they go bigger and then they keep shedding it. Here's our frogs, internal skeleton of a frog, okay? And so what is the purpose of skeleton? Support the body, protect the body, site for muscle attachment, storage reserve for ions, production of blood cells. All your blood is made in the bones. Miss Lisa Strong, who teaches Skeleton Hall, was my student. And I used to tell a joke, and we spent like 3 or 4 weeks, a month on bones. And I came in one day, and I had one of the guys, like I said, just go with me, just confirm what I asked you, just say, yes, sir, I saw that. Because if you get somebody in the room to do that, then it's real. So I came in and said, anybody watch 60 Minutes on Sunday? And this guy goes, I saw that. I saw it. I said, did you see the thing about the chicken ranches, you know, and the Tyson boneless chicken ranches? He goes, yeah. And I said, yeah, they take these little baby chickens. How many of them buy boneless chicken all the time, right? Well, they have to pull their bones out of them and throw them up and it's flopping like fish. It's so brutal, it's mean, it's bad, it's evil. And then I go into lecture and talk about how you can't have movement without what? Both bone and muscles, right? But Miss Strong didn't hear the rest of the lecture. And at the end, I made the joke that, hey, you know, there are boneless chickens. They pull the bone out after they kill the raw chicken. I forgot to tell that class. So we get about a month later, I'm in the lab, a girl comes up with a petition, boycott Tyson chicken because of the boneless chicken ranches. And we get like 30 names. That was a joke, okay? So make sure, if y'all go to medical school or something, you can't have movement without muscle and the anchor in the bone. Okay, if you don't, you just spasm, right? It's just like you gotta have an anchor, okay? And so she, we were talking about the other day, she said, yeah, I found out, she said like 10 years later, she finds out that there's no boneless chickens. She hit me, I think, abused me, okay, but anyway. So make sure you understand this, you have to have both, okay? And bones can grow, and they grow very quickly. You completely recycle your bones like 15% every year. So after 6-7 years, you've got complete new bones. You don't regulate, but old people quit doing that. It's called endocombal ossification, and we won't go into that. Here's two of the dumbest words ever. And if I could change this, I would. This would bother me. Then what does the word blast mean, everybody? Tear something up, right? So that should be what? The cells that break bone down, right? No. They make bone, and osteoclasts break it down. That's just dumb. I don't do dumb very well. Okay. So osteoclasts are the cells that make bone up, which I think they should blow them up. And osteoclasts break them down. And osteoclasts are actually modified monocytes, the blood cells that eat things. And so we're always taking our bones down and rebuilding them. Does anybody here broke a bone? Okay, pretty quick recovery right if you're young, right? Because you're always building and breaking back. And actually, if you're young, it'll grow back stronger in that area, thicker. They can even look at the X-ray and tell which bones yours was broke over, because it'll grow back bigger there. Osteocyte is the mature bone once it surrounds itself in a matrix of calcium deposits. Okay, there are two flavors: compact bone and spongy bone. Spongy bone looks like a sponge; it makes the ends of the bones, and then the shafts are these Haversian canals that look like tree rings or something. And you cannot count the rings and tell how old somebody is. Don't even ask. Okay, but that's called compact bone, and it's very tough. And a good example of that is the skull is all compact. It's a compact bone up here. It's very, very tough. Okay, but you can see it's very much alive. It has blood vessels in it. What you see alive is dead, right? And I think bones have been misunderstood. I think most people think of bones as like 2x4s, scaffolding in a house, but it's living scaffolding. Okay, you know what I'm saying? It's alive, and it hurt when you broke it in. And it has nerves, and it bleeds. It's bad. It's not like my dead bones that when they feel out that we've given. There's been all the muscles been rotted off, and ants have eaten all the muscles out of it, right? So I think it's kind of misunderstood. So that's what we see in lab, but in reality, it's got blood vessels running on it. Okay, and it can be formed from cartilage. Okay, and then we just quickly look at the skull part. I'm going to blow through these. I'm not going to pull out this on the test, other than just multiple choice final. I'm not going to have a picture for y'all label, but you should know these are bones we learned in the 5th grade. Right? Come on, I'm not going to bore you with those. But these are the basic bone parts. We'll look at a couple of cool things. We'd have to learn all the skull parts in A and B, and everything. We have, I think it's over 300 things we learn in A and B. They got to know different parts of the skull. This is cool. Here's supraorbital frame is right above the eye. You can feel that sometimes. You rub it there, you can pinch that blood vessel coming out there. So blood vessels and nerves come out these little holes. We have to learn different vertebrae. Okay, we got to do. Here's a phone here real quick. We got a few minutes. But how many of y'all, if you went to Walmart and asked 100 Mississippi Bubbas and Bubbettes, that's my girl name for random people, Mississippi people. How many would say that women have more ribs than men? I think in the Bible Belt, most people would say over 50% would go, women have one more rib because Adam had a rib removed to make Eve, right? And I got no problem. I actually think that's what God did. But what God did not do was go into Adam's DNA and remove a rib gene in all his DNA. Okay, which he could do, but he didn't. So we have the same number of ribs as boys and girls. Okay, now Adam was missing a rib. Okay, he had 21. Okay, whatever. Okay, but you can see there's 12 on each side. Okay, I always thought that's kind of funny. My little I didn't find that very entertaining. Okay, but then I had a guy in the back one time laughed at that joke really more than he should. And so after class, he came up and said, "Are you wondering why I'm laughing so much?" And I went, "Yeah," because I thought it was. I give myself a C on that joke. And he said, "I'm laughing because for my job. It made me think of my job." And I'm like, "All right." And he goes, I work for a Kroger, and I'm a butcher, meat butcher at Kroger." And I said, "Why are you laughing?" He goes, "Well, I just think that shocked that God made women out of the cheapest piece of meat that I've heard." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't say that." He said that. I would have made y'all play me. I'm just gonna say it, okay? But the beef ribs are real cheap. That was his joke to me. I'm like, "Dude, can I use that?" But I'm gonna defer. You said I didn't. Okay, but anyway, that's kind of cool. Manubrium, xiphoid process. This is what a lot of people break when they do CPR, right? So there's a little bone sticking out in the air that you don't want to break. Like I said, the cartilage is really cool. Then the pelvic girdle. You can also tell if it's a boy and girl, by looking at the pelvic girdle. And then she talks about joints. This is the knee. And look at all the ligaments and stuff in this. And you can see meniscus is a little cushions in your knee, the shock absorbers. And then and actually, you see athletes have that break all the time, right? And meniscus tear, and they have to be fixed. And then we have articulating cartilage that I have none in my right knee on the outside. So there's two places where the knee steps. I have no cartilage on the right outside knee. So when I move my leg, it sounds like somebody stepping on a box of crackers. All the bone rubbing bone pretty bad. I need to get that replaced. Versus the little sacs and joints to give them support. These are packing peanuts, okay, to hold the joint in place and then wrap it all up in God's duct tape called ligaments. So this is this connective tissue that holds it all together. Pretty cool picture there. Muscles then, obviously, there are three types of muscle. Remember, there's skeletal, conscious control, there's cardiac muscle, and then there's smooth muscle in the gut. Okay, and we would look at some of the muscles here. We learned those in AMP2, and we usually just do the superficial ones, front and back. And you can see these. And the short answer question I think is going to be kind of tricky is how do muscles contract? Every muscle has a point where it attaches to the bone that doesn't move, and that's called the origin. And the insertion is the end of the muscle that attaches to the bone that's moving. Okay, those are just terms you should know. And then we get down to a very quick look at the physiology of this. Okay, now one of the first things that drives me crazy is whoever named all this. I'm sorry, it's pretty cool. I'm trying to turn it back. I got it. It was hot when I came in now. I'm having menopause, having flashes. But everything in muscle is named sarcode. Okay, and here's why. The functional unit of a muscle cell that shortens is called the sarcomere. Let me show you what one looks like. So, real quick, let's get the picture. So here's a muscle pulled out, and here's the stripes from here to here is one sarcomere. My pen is no longer working. Okay, here we go. So from here to here, that is one sarcomere. And when you look at it under electron microscope at 6,000 power, look, see it? And when we look at it here, here's what's got. This myosin in the middle is thick, and it has little boat forwards called cross bridges that reach up and grab the active, and it does this and rolls it together and shortens, and you have hundreds of those in one muscle, so they all grab each other and do roll your boat, and the muscle contracts. Isn't that cool? So everything is named sarcode, kind of like, I hate to say it, I'm just going to go ahead and tell a little bad side story. How many of y'all remember the old 70s Batman and Robin? Y'all probably watched the Batman TV show, but the real adult, not a cartoon, but you have seen one with the bar down, and it's like real famous. And it's playing on it's over. A lot of people see obviously y'all have not seen the replay. Okay, but, but if you ever seen one, it's like when Batman hits somebody, it's like pow, and Robin. Okay, so here I am, like 1972, I'm 8. Who do you think I am?
Obviously Robin.
Obviously, so I got the full leotard sitting on my big bag because that's me, right? That's me, right? And Batman's my man. For every show, they end up in terrible predicament, and you have to wait till the next week to find out how to get out of it, okay? But in that show, I mean, and y'all know this, and this is bad, but if you ever seen one show, you know it. They had the back cave, the back toilet, the back phone, the back car, the back mobile, everything's back. Everything's sarco here. So we don't have a cell membrane, we have the sarcolemma, right? We go back to it, look at all those S words. That's the cell membrane. We don't have endoplasmic reticulum. Remember the organelle that stores and transports things? No, it's called the sarcoplasmic reticulum now. And these functional units are the sarcomere that make the muscles that we like to eat. Okay. So, and I think there's a video there you can watch. I think that's a really good, better picture than most I've seen showing what's going on here. Okay. So these sarcomeres shorten, and the sarcomere is that unit from here to here, and these myofibers are the protein filaments that make up muscle. That's a cross section of it. And all these come together, and that is contraction. And then when they let go, they relax. And calcium is what triggers it. Okay. Botulism toxin. I've never seen this on the TV. But this is a terrible bacterium that will cause you to be paralyzed. And around 1980, this doctor was growing it in the laboratory, and he diluted it and started shooting women with it in their face to paralyze their face so they won't get old and get wrinkles. So all you good-looking, beautiful people in here, guys included, okay, good-looking group here. I am obviously the oldest person in the room once again. Okay, got multiple factors here. Y'all can stay beautiful your whole life, get these injections up in your face that keeps you from being able to frown or even move the muscles at all in your upper chin. That's what people get wrinkles like I do. And all that in here. But if they shoot too much, you get droopy face for like a week. So they have Botox parties, like $100, you can have some wine and get your face shut up and y'all stay good looking and young forever, okay? But can you imagine we're using a deadly toxin, right, diluted to paralyze people's face so they won't get wrinkles? But there was a song about you're so vain. You probably think the song's about, you can check it out. It's a good song. Okay, but anyway, they purify, and then you can put this in food, kill lots of people. Okay, there's a guy that figured out. Way to go, dude. John Crothers has figured that out for facial wrinkles and so forth. And this is a $1 billion industry. There we go. And the scars go away. If they don't shoot too much, you don't get droopy face. Neuromuscular junction. Remember, same thing we saw in synapses is acetylcholine is released, and that's what triggers the muscle to contract. So same thing here is the nerve ending at the end. It releases neurotransmitter, it goes apart, and it triggers contraction. Calcium has to bind to a receptor that makes the whole thing happen. So the cross bridges cannot occur without calcium binding to troponin, and that opens it up and allows the cross bridges to grow. Very cool concept there, and that is like 5 chapters. That is 5 weeks of AP in 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm not going to go crazy on it. I'll just give you some anywhere close on my count. Sure, answer questions on those. Any questions? Pretty cool. I mean, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to have a bunch of freaking muscle pictures or anything like that. We're not going to go crazy on that. All right. Thoughts? Anything? Anybody? Appreciate y'all. Y'all been once again very fun and entertaining.